This is Hanging with Hayes, the podcast where real life takes center stage. I'm your host, Chelsea, a blue-collar wife, dog mom, virtual assistant, photographer, and entrepreneur. Join me as I dive into the everyday experiences that shape our lives, from marriage to relationships and everything in between. Remember, these are my personal opinions, so take them with a grain of salt. Get ready for candid conversations and genuine insights. Welcome to Hanging with Hayes.
This is Hanging with Hayes. This is my dad, Jim.
Hello.
He is going to be my guest today. I wanted to just sit down with my dad and just talk about some stories that he wants to talk about. And yeah, that's what we'll talk about today.
Today we are going to talk about one of the people in my past, in my life, that was just a myriad of different personalities, a myriad of different things. My grandmother on my dad's side, Grandma Emma. Very, very, very opinionated person.
Who I take after very much.
Little background on her. She grew up, she was born in the south side of Chicago in a neighborhood known as Back of the Yards. The stockyards were very active. This would have been late 1800s, maybe 1889 or thereabouts when she was born. If you have ever read the book The Jungle by Upton Sinclair, he goes into great detail about the meatpacking industry in Chicago about that time. He wrote the book in 1906. And her father was involved in meatpacking industry. I have no idea what he did, but because of the stresses that these guys would encounter on their job, the only relief they would find was in the tavern. So my great-grandfather was drunk most of the time, probably both on the job and when he got home. So my great-grandma said, that's enough of that. So she packed the whole family up and moved out to Michigan.
Without him?
Oh no, he brought him along. Brought him along. And my grandpa, Alan, met her somehow. Well, the place where she lived and where he lived was probably about 4 or 5 miles apart. I mean, this is turn of the century, so it's still all horses and buggies and that sort of thing.
She dropped the handkerchief.
Maybe. And then she'd be mad because he picked it up. I heard many stories from her, heard many stories about her, and I experienced many things which are story-worthy about her. Probably the one she told the most was about my aunt, my dad's only older sister. And Sis wanted a purse.
What was her name?
Catherine.
Mm-hmm.
She wanted a purse. And it was a really expensive purse. Well, they lived out in the country on the farm. This would have been probably Depression era because she was born in 1914. And the purse was very expensive and she didn't have any money. Well, she bought it. And Grandma told me this story probably 40 times during the time I grew up, that Catherine had that purse, but she didn't have a damn nickel to put into it. It cost her everything she owned just to own the purse, but she didn't have any money in the purse. That was a grandma story.
Oh.
Over and over and over.
Oh my God.
Oh, yeah.
That was a grandma story. Oh my goodness.
She had this saying, you'd own a piece of equipment or something in the house that would break down. And the first thing out of her mouth was, blessed be nothing. Blessed be nothing. It's better if we don't have these things. And her house was so full of trinkets. The kitchen had every imaginable toy.
Really? Because, like, in my impression, is this not the same woman that would get down on her hands and knees and scrub the floor with like a, or is that somebody else?
That was Aunt Catherine.
Oh, okay.
She did that every single day.
So I took after Aunt Catherine.
Except you're not doing hands and knees.
How do you know?
Anyway, Grandma had to have the newest, latest of everything, and then she was all this blessed be nothing.
Was she a hoarder?
No, I don't think she was a hoarder. She just
liked stuff.
She just liked stuff. She had
antiques.
She had a huge Westinghouse tabletop television, obviously black and white. And the picture on it was so bright, it had to sit in the other room, and you'd sit way back over here, and it would still be blinding. It was so bright. It was just, but it lasted forever. I think probably lasted 20, 25 years.
Compared to TVs now.
Yeah, no kidding.
Oh my God.
She tried to put on the impression that she was quite the church lady.
The church lady?
Oh, yeah. She never learned to drive after they got rid of the Model T. Now, a Model T is really, really difficult to drive because you have like 3 pedals on the floorboard, and one is for going in reverse, and one is for low speed, and one is for high speed. So you got to get them just. She could do that to a T. But when they came out, when Grandpa got, it was probably the 49 Chevy or whatever.
One with a clutch?
One with a clutch and a brake, and she couldn't drive it. So she never drove again.
Really? But she could understand that other one?
After they got rid of the Model T, she no longer drove. So somebody had to take her places.
Oh, that's wild.
Well, so she wanted to go to church, but nobody was going to take her to church, so she quit going. And a lot of times I'd go in her house, and she'd be sitting in the big stuffed chair in the living room, reading the Bible. But all my recollection of her, she never, ever, 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 ever quoted one verse of Scripture. Now, she'd say things that sounded kind of biblical, like, well, bread cast upon the waters comes back tenfold.
That does sound biblical.
Scripture talks about cast your bread upon the waters, but it does not say you will get 10 times back. But so somehow she made that up.
It's an Emma version.
As Homer Simpson says, it's in the back of the Bible.
Oh my God.
During the Depression, there would be a lot of guys, the unemployment rate was 25%. 24 or 25% of the working people could not find a job. So there were a lot of hobos. They would walk through the woods, past the farmhouses, and if they found a place where somebody would feed them, somehow they would mark. The hobos all had their own language. They're all little signs. So they would mark either the mailbox or the house or something, that this place is a place you can get served. Well, I found out that Grandma was real big about making sure that no hobo left hungry. And at first glance and at first telling, that sounds really, really good. Sounds like real generous, real
nice.
Till I found out that she said later, if you feed them, they'll have much less tendency to come back and burn your barn down. So it was all pretty much.
That's so messed up.
It was all pretty much self-centered. She was protecting the farm by, she'd be out in the field working, and she'd spot a hobo coming up. Well, I got to go feed this guy. It was not because she was concerned for him. She wanted to make sure that nobody burned the barn down.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
One of the favorite stories I heard shortly after she and Grandpa got married. They were sitting down to dinner, and she had made a huge platter of pork chops.
Oh, I remember this story.
And she held up the platter and put a pork chop on her plate and then handed it to Grandpa. And they were newlyweds. He was full of pee and vinegar, like I am.
You can say piss.
He's full of piss and vinegar, just like most of the members of my family.
Uh-huh.
So he said, that isn't the one I wanted. He took his fork and he reached over and took the one off her plate and put it on his plate, figuring they'd laugh and go on. The fight lasted 2 weeks.
Over a fucking pork chop.
Over a pork chop. Just because she felt that that was improper. It was like, really? Come on.
What year was this?
Let's see. They would have been married in probably 1912, 1913, 1911, somewhere around in there. Because Catherine was the first and she was born in 14. So
I'm surprised that she didn't just fold, because isn't that kind of how women acted back then? Like, okay, whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but she was
mean.
She was very much a
didn't communicate.
She was very independent. Everything was all. I mean, she was sort of generous, but everything was all, to her self-interest.
Okay, so like how you just said independent, going off of that, I've heard people say that, like, oh, we need an independent woman. No, if you're married, I think you need to be a self-sufficient woman and not an independent woman, because you can rely on your husband for things.
Oh, yeah.
And it's so, like, I don't know. When I hear that term as a married female, that is mind-boggling to me.
Well, marriage is supposed to be two people coming together as one.
Yes.
So
why are you independent in general?
Right. You still have
you're independent of your own, like, personality.
You have your personal interests.
Correct.
They're not going to go away.
No. But
you certainly don't turn a cold shoulder to your mate just because
they had a fucking pork chop you wanted. That's just wild.
She got in an
lack of communication is wild.
She got in an argument with a neighbor, another farmer closer to town. I do not know what the fight was about, but it went on and went on and went on for months.
Months?
Well, in the spring,
holy shit,
when actually probably around June, when the strawberries came in, this neighbor wanted to bury the hatchet. So he brought her an entire flat of strawberries. Here, Emma, here, have some strawberries. Her response was to open the front door, take the strawberries, throw them in the driveway, and say, I don't want your damn strawberries. And slam the door. Yes. That's what Grandma Emma did. And I don't know if that battle ever ended.
Probably not.
Or if she was still carrying the animosity grudge towards him, yeah.
Oh my God. There is nothing worth losing.
Yeah, it's silly. In a small farming community,
Hold on.
Well, mine went
vibrate.
off too. Mine went off too.
I know, I heard it.
In a small farming community, it's always to your advantage to be friendly with all your neighbors.
100%.
Because you might need something they might want to help you with.
Yeah, or if your barn burns down.
Uh-huh, right. if the homeowner didn't get a meal.
Oh my God. Times were different back then, but still, like.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, nowadays you don't even know your neighbors, but.
I do.
That's good.
They're my in-laws.
There was a little bitty house just south of Grandma and Grandpa's house. It's actually where my mom's family stayed when they first moved up here. And years later, when I was maybe 10 or 11, I was going through that house and there was this like aluminum pewter kerosene lamp There was no glass on it, just the lamp. It was pretty cool. So I went up, asked Grandma, I said, can I have that? You know, it's been laying out in this house for years.
Of course you can't.
Nobody's used it. And she looked at me and says, no. The way you boys are, a few ups and a few downs, and it'll be tossed in a corner. And
why does it matter?
Thanks, Grandma. Thanks for your kindness to your grandson.
What was your relationship like with Grandpa or whatever?
Well,
Bulgy.
He died when I was, hold on, just past my 6th birthday.
Or not Bulgy, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He died just past my 6th birthday. The few times that I remember hanging out with him when they were working around the farm or whatever, he was very amiable. He called me Yimmy. Here, have some water, Yimmy.
Yimmy.
Yeah.
That's cute.
He was kind of like me. Back then, I was drinking water all the time, kids.
Oh, but now you don't.
Not as much as I should, probably. Anyway, he was the same, and he says, every time I go to the jug of water, I know Jimmy's going to be right behind. So,
oh, that's cute.
It's very cute.
Yimmy.
It's a story for another day.
Okay.
So yeah, I couldn't have the little lamp, and
that is so odd. That is so odd.
Oh, my uncle in 1960 was badly injured and paralyzed from the waist down, and after he finally got out of the hospital, he was stable enough to be cared for at home. Grandma took care of him. Well, right there in the house, and my 2 brothers and a cousin from Chicago and I were out in the front yard. And, we're kids. We're going to yell. We're going to carry on. Well, she came out and she was so angry with that loudmouth Jimmy that she threatened to take a towel and wrap it around my head so nobody could hear me yell.
What an odd thing to say.
Oh, yeah, she was different. She was different.
Definitely not allowed now.
When I don't remember if I was in like middle school, middle school, or early high school. Dad and my brother and I were working on something out in the barn, and we needed to put a little kerosene on it. I don't know, lubricate it or break something loose. Well, the squirt can was empty.
Oh, Lord.
Dad said, go up to Grandma's house. She's got a jug of kerosene sitting on the floor. Make sure you don't spill it as you're filling the can.
Oh.
So I screwed the thing out. I carefully filled the can. Didn't spill any on the floor. Set the jug down, put the cap on it. But as I'm putting the top in, the squirt can had that plunger thing that went in.
Uh-huh.
Well, as it went in, it displaced enough that it ran over.
Oh, shit.
So here's a kerosene stain on the floor.
Great.
Well, I grabbed a towel and I wiped it up and washed it as best I could.
She knew.
She screamed at me about that for several days. That damn kerosene in my basement.
She had nothing better to talk about.
And one spring, she had just planted her vegetable garden. I mean, it was just all seeds. She hadn't set any plants out. Well, you've seen the little wheel hoe that's 2 handles and the wheel with the little hook thing on the back?
You had one of those.
I had one of those. Well, my brother got a hold of it, and so he's just running it around back and forth. He didn't realize it was planted. Oh, she about ripped him limb from limb. You screwed up my garden with a wheel hoe. And so that lasted for several days. She just loved to scream about
Holy shit. Do you want to turn chairs a little bit?
We can do that.
So we're not like weirdly looking at each other?
There.
That's better. Yeah. Much better.
I can recall a conversation I had with her. I don't know, I was there seeing her for something, to ask her about something, and she was always full of opinions. And she was
no shit.
Damn ready to share them with you. Well, you know what's wrong nowadays with this country? You know what's wrong with this world?
What's going on, Emma? Tell me. Good Lord.
When they invented these damn cornflakes, people aren't eating oatmeal. They're eating these damn cornflakes that they get in and out of the kitchen so fast they don't spend any time with the family and they don't get as much nutrition. And she went on and on about cornflakes.
Fuck the cornflakes.
Cornflakes are the villains. And that conversation probably lasted 20 minutes.
Can you imagine if she knew about Lucky Charms? Oh.
Or Count Chocula.
Shit. What the fuck?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Cornflakes?
It's a big deal.
Oh my god. Did she put sugar in her oatmeal? She just eat that shit dry.
I don't know. I never watched her. She always made really good sugar cookies that had good sugar on them. But
did you get that oatmeal recipe from her?
No, they
Did
came.
You just make that up?
No, they came from a vegetarian cookbook.
Oh my god, my dad makes this oatmeal.
It's baked oatmeal.
Oh, and it's got fruit in it. It is so good. It is my favorite oatmeal on earth. And every time he'd make it for like Christmas or it'd be Christmas, wouldn't it be?
Yeah.
Normally. Or Thanksgiving. No, we wouldn't eat it on Thanksgiving because we'd be too fucking hungry. Or not, like we'd be too full. No, it was
special occasions.
Yeah, like holidays. And you'd always wear the same sweatshirt on that day. The Kenwood sweatshirt.
I still have it.
Either the man with the speaker blowing his...
Oh, the Maxell?
Yeah.
With a guy blowing back.
He always wore the same shit on holiday.
Mom told one conversation she had when we were little. The three of us were little boys. And Grandma was talking to Mom, and she says, you just have to wonder which one of them's going to grow up to be the smartest.
She's not.
She didn't care about who was the healthiest or the strongest. Who's going to be the smartest?
Not you. Not you. I meant her.
Oh, man. And
why was she so fucking opinionated? Was her mom like that? Because that seems so weird for the time.
Matilda, with an H, Thilda, was caustic. Well, because she had to rescue that drunken damn husband out of the city, get him away from that slop, as Grandma called beer. It was slop.
I'm sure everybody would disagree.
So, yeah, that's where she got a lot of that attitude, was from great-grandma Matilda.
So I got all of that from her.
Maybe some of it, yeah.
Who did I get the other part from?
I don't know.
You.
I remember, I was probably 4th or 5th grade, and I heard some silly joke about there's 5 elephants, 2 of them are wearing red shoes, and 3 of them are wearing green shoes. What does that tell you? And she says, well, I don't know. I said, 2 out of 5 elephants prefer red. And instead of laughing because it's a little silly kid joke, she goes, now what am I supposed to do with that? Just as indignant. She was so put out that I...
Do you have any positives?
Probably not.
That's hilarious. She sounds like a peach. Well, thank God it didn't turn out like her completely.
Oh man.
I think you would have kicked my ass. I mean, I look like her though.
Yeah, that's true.
That's scary.
And she always had this thing, Grandma, I got 100 on my test. I'm a school kid. I'm bragging.
So you were smart.
Yeah.
You were the smart one?
That's for another day. And she had a thing that she would just self-brag stinks.
Okay.
Aren't
you supposed to be proud?
One would think so. But self-brag stinks.
What did your mom and dad say when you said that you got 100?
Yeah, that's good. Glad you did well, that sort of thing. But, oh, man, she just flipped out.
What a cranky person.
She was.
What? It makes you wonder how absolutely miserable she was on the inside of her head.
Oh, yeah.
If she was that miserable on the outside.
Yeah, if it flowed out of her to that degree. Yeah.
I feel like if I would be around her.
You guys would be like 2 cats with their tails tied hanging over the
I'd
wash
burn
line.
her tail. Like, there's no, I feel every ounce of happiness would just be gone. Like, there would be no.
She suck all the joy out
All
of
of
the
it.
room. We had a neighbor, little crippled guy by the name of AJ, who would come over, visit there at the house, and intentionally tease her about politics and get her just raving. And he'd go,
And he would just do it on purpose.
yeah, and then he'd laugh. See you guys later. And she'd go on and on for hours.
Oh my God, how mean. Did they have opposite views?
Well, he would find out what her view was and just intentionally be honest.
Even if they were the same.
I don't know what her political leanings were. I just know she was full of.
Which I really do feel like that's kind of a thing, because nowadays, obviously, you know everybody's political views, but back then, like, you didn't really talk about that. It's like talking about your salary. You didn't talk about that.
Yeah, it's like asking your wife, how did you vote? Oh, no, we can't do that. Don't you ask me. That's my secret. Kind of. That's the way she was.
That's awful, though, that he would do that.
And he did it over and over again. It was regular entertainment for him. Go over and get M stirred up.
What'd Grandma say? Your mom.
I don't know if she ever. Well, Mom was never. I mean, that was probably before Mom.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know if it was. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my
God. We went to in the last years when the House of David was still open. They had the big beer garden and they had a place for picnics.
Isn't
and
it
stuff.
still open?
No, hasn't been for years.
Are you sure?
Well, they still have
Tours.
a campground and that sort of thing. Okay. What do they call it now?
I don't know. Don't say it.
Yeah. Anyway, we were there Sunday afternoon for a picnic. And I was probably 15 or 16. And I had this idea about, and I said, it would be nice if we didn't have to sleep because you get so much more stuff done.
Oh, shit.
Oh, did she leap on me? You gotta sleep. Your body has to recharge. She just went on and on.
She wouldn't understand sarcasm at all.
Oh, God, no.
Oh, I would not get along with her.
Well, she'd say, and what am I supposed to do with that?
Can you imagine if she saw all my tattoos?
Oh, man, no. She wouldn't let you in the house. That hussy and her tattoos.
Your, what, just great-granddaughter? No. You said your grandma?
Yeah.
So great-granddaughter.
Your great-granddaughter, yeah.
She'd lose her shit.
She would.
Or if she saw my blue hair.
Or the ring.
Or my nose piercing.
Yeah.
Or different nails. I'd just be fucked up.
Yeah. No, Grandpa used to accuse her of begrudging him the few bucks he'd spend on tobacco.
I bet he did. I bet they had a horrible marriage. I mean, think about it.
Oh, yeah.
Like, she probably talked to him like a piece of shit.
Well, when my uncle was born, she wanted to name him one name, and they ended up naming him something else. And all through his life, she called him the name she wanted.
What a bitch.
I remember distinctly hearing her call him Mike. Because she wanted to name him Michael. But they named him something else.
That is so fucked up. How manipulative.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God.
So that's pretty much my list.
Holy shit.
That's my Grandma Emma. I am truly, truly amazed and truly pleased how many families in our congregation at the church we're attending now are schooling at home.
Really?
Yeah, there's a bunch of them.
Really?
Yeah.
How many?
Well, remember Pete's friends that we shared the curriculum with? They're there now. and there's probably 3 or 4 other.
Are you serious?
Yeah, it's very cool. Very cool.
Wow.
And
I guess I really wanted to just talk about it because, like, when people on the internet find out that I was homeschooled, they don't believe me.
oh, because the first thing they say when they find out you're homeschooling your children,
Yeah.
they won't have any social skills whatsoever.
No, I have none. This many. Yeah. But that was also, what year did you start homeschooling us?
Okay. You were born in 93.
Yep.
So it would have been, what, 98 when you started?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I did it for 10 years. 8 years for you, and Ben came along and was two grades behind you.
1. I graduated 11. He was 12.
He graduated 13.
I'm sorry, 13.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah,
2
yeah.
years.
Anyway, so it was 10
That's
years.
right, because his birthday fell weird.
Yeah, it was
That's
late.
what it was. He's a year younger.
Another thing I'm also finding out, everybody, the media and everybody goes, oh, homeschooling. I'm talking to people there's a gal that we usher with who is a calculus instructor at a university.
And she was homeschooled.
No,
Oh.
but when I told her, I said, yeah, I schooled both my kids for 8 years. And they're all very supportive.
Now.
People who are in the business of education, who get paid to stand in front of a room of kids and shake their yardstick.
Really?
They all go, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. You did a good thing. So that really makes me feel good.
Well, I also think it's like the time now, because there's so many things negative that happen at schools that people think, okay, you're doing a good job of sheltering your children in a protective way, but you're still immersing them in like sports and other things. Like you're giving them the good shit, but they're also getting the good shit at your home too, because you're able to spend time with them and teach them.
I always say it's the greatest blessing a father can have, to spend that much time with his kids, because they find out who you are.
Yeah.
You find out who they are.
I couldn't do 2 + 3. I found that shit out real fast. And 3 + 2.
And then you worked for a bank.
Yeah. For 10 years. And did accounting.
Yeah.
Make that make fucking sense.
One of the things that was good about homeschooling is that I could introduce you to the classics. Real solid stories from the past.
Gone with the Wind.
Gone with the Wind.
I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember sitting right behind the computer and you just reading it, and it was, oh my God, do you remember when we watched the movie for the first time, and like the first 2 minutes of it was like 7 chapters of the book, and you're like, God, that was fast.
I don't know about birthing no babies.
I love that movie so much. That's why Rhett's name is Rhett.
Yeah.
Rhett Butler.
Exactly.
Except people don't know what I'm talking about,
Yeah.
so I have to say
From Gone
Thomas Rhett.
Yeah.
The country singer.
Oh,
They think I'm saying Rex. I'm like, no, Thomas Rhett. I'm like, but if you really know what I'm talking about, Rhett Butler on Gone with the Wind. And they're like, oh, like it's an old movie.
Yeah.
I don't know. I will never regret being homeschooled ever. And people ask me that, like, do you ever regret not going to public school? Absolutely the fuck not.
Yeah.
No, I don't.
When you look at how hard schools are struggling to get, I mean, if you look at the news article when they name a valedictorian and the salutatorian, how often they're barely scraping to get a 4-point grade point average.
Really?
And these are valedictorians. Now, there's always the occasional one gets 4.5, however the hell they do that.
Well, the ones that I had in my class were smart as shit, and that's what they had. But you remember we had 2 valedictorians and 2 salutatorians.
And you had what, 9 kids
so half of them.
Of the high school class, yeah.
For more context, went to a Christian private school for high school, but yeah. I don't know. I really wish I would have stayed homeschooled for my high school career, but oh well. It's just funny thinking about it. Hindsight's 2020 now.
Always is. Always is.
But I do find it funny that Ben liked public school more than anything.
Yeah, he had enough of the Christian school.
Yeah. It was too cliquey.
Too legalistic also.
Also that.
There was also a great advantage when we were involved in some of the organizations, 4-H and some of the homeschool trips, that you got to rub elbows with a whole bunch of different people.
Yeah, but I remember doing those co-op things, and you were like, these people are weird. I mean, they were weird compared to us, but like, they were also moms. You were like the only dad.
Well, yeah, I was the anomaly. Normally, it's a woman in a long dress and straight hair.
Yeah.
And comfortable shoes.
And 9 kids.
And 9 kids.
Which is fine. But it's just funny.
Yeah.
You know? I don't know. It cracks me up.
I was blessed that I was able to school you guys in the morning, work part-time in the afternoon.
Yep.
And the company that I worked for, it was very supportive. Yep. In fact, a bunch of my coworkers left me voicemails.
They did?
I still have the cassette. I'll play it for you sometime.
Aww.
About how I made the right decision to go part-time and school my kids at home.
At the radio?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. There's probably 4 or 5 different people
Holy
left me.
Shit, that's cool.
I recorded the voicemails. So it was very cool. I'll play it for you sometime.
That's nice. They left you voicemails?
We think it's a great thing that you're doing.
Oh.
It's much more important than slinging spots to car dealers and stuff like that. Yeah.
You had more fun.
Yeah.
We got to ride around the block and shit.
And we used to go to the flywheelers.
That was fun. That was a lot of fun.
Get your picture in the paper saw on a log.
Yep. Except it was always funny when you go past like the farm section of the flywheelers and all these kids are looking at a cow and I'm like, seen that before.
When I went to Michigan State University, because I needed some extra cash, I got some money out of the dairy barn. So I'd ride my bicycle from main campus down to the dairy barn. Well, one afternoon while I was there was a group of vet students, freshmen who were in the vet program, were touring the barn. And I saw that there was a cow having trouble giving birth.
So you helped.
So I just walked over there and grabbed the feet and pulled the cat. And their eyes were as big as a hole in that guitar. Wow! I've never seen such a thing.
It's just so funny to me.
Yeah.
I mean, you grew up around it and you're used to it. Like when we'd walk out to the field with Sandy to get the cows and there'd be, shit on the ground and Ben and I would pick it up and throw it like saucers. You think kids would do that shit nowadays? No. Just like a frisbee?
Yeah.
Stupid. And Aunt Sandy would be like, put that stuff down.
Wash your hands.
Yeah. I'd be like, it's fine. It was dry. It's okay.
In fact, at the dairy barn there also, they had the watering cups with a pedal in it.
Yeah.
Well, every once in a while, a cow will poop in that. That happens.
Yep.
And I was cleaning one out with my hand as the dairy farm manager walked by, and he goes, I can't believe you did that. I said, why? It's got to come out of there, right? I just dipped it out. I ran some water, washed my hands in the water. I was fine.
That reminds me when Ben and I went to that camp we go to in the summer, the wilderness camp that I went to. I remember this so specifically. We were all fishing, and all the kids would ask the counselor, can you put the worm on? I'd break the worm with my fingernail, and I'd put the worm on, and people were like, oh, that's gross. And the counselors would laugh, man, you grew up in the country, didn't you? I'm like, that shit don't bother me. And thinking about the irrigation pond that we used to swim in now, like that's gross now. But like back then, that shit was fun. It was just Doug.
Yeah.
And how many leeches Gage had on him that day? Were you there that night?
I think so.
He had like 6 of them. And then Ben, I think, had, or maybe not. I don't remember, but it was disgusting. The shit we did. taking the bike and riding it into the irrigation
Oh,
pond.
he threw it out.
He drove into no, he was on it and rode it into the pond.
And then we had to get the big grappling hook to try and
What was it called?
Castle grabber.
Yeah. So, for context, my Uncle Dave welded what did he weld together?
It was the 2 teeth off a spring tooth drag, and then a piece of iron, and then a loop with a hole.
And it literally looked like a grappling hook from like medieval times.
Or James Bond movies.
Yeah. And you'd throw it over the side of a castle, so he called it the castle grabber. And the bike was down in the pond, and we threw that thing out there until we found the bike.
The tough part was because he had used such heavy steel, that thing was heavy and hard to throw. I couldn't imagine throwing it up and come back and hit you in the head.
Hell no. Remember Ben did that and it got stuck up in the tree and he couldn't get the fuck out? He was so mad. Like, oh, stupid shit we did as kids. And then jumping off of like the combine.
Mm-hmm.
Ignorant.
Well,
I don't know how Ben didn't break bones.
Well, your uncle jumped off a slide at school when he was in grade school. And
Didn't he also fly over the...
And the ground was frozen. So he really screwed up an ankle.
Which one?
The same one who's almost killed himself several times.
Cool.
Yeah.
Dave. Mm-hmm. How many times? It's been like 12 times.
Yeah, he's got 9 lives.
Not trying to off himself, but, you know, farm accidents happen. Jumping off of elevators and shit. Stupid.
Yep. So that gives you an idea where Chelsea gets some of her personality, some of her...
He makes me sound mean.
Mom! Some of her tenacity, and some of her drive.
That makes more sense. Not the attitude. I mean, I have some attitude, but I'm not.
It doesn't boil over all the time.
I don't let it boil over anymore. I've calmed down a little bit and stopped drinking too.
Makes a difference.
Yeah. Well, how many years have you been sober?
December 9th, 2017 was the last drink I had. 1 night in jail changed all that.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Over 2 years for me.
I still have a basement full of wine I want to give away. So
He used to make beer and wine in the basement. Like a proper bootlegger. All right. Well, thank you for coming on my podcast, Dad.
Glad to be here.
It's been fun.
Uh-huh.
We'll talk about some other shit the next time you come on here.
I was kind of surprised how many things about Grandma you'd never heard about.
I didn't hear about like 5 of those things.
That's cool.
That's weird. Honestly shocked.
I have a whole sheet of stories I want to tell.
Okay. You'll come next time and we'll do more stories.
Yeah.
All right. Like and subscribe. Good job. Oh.